were open-minded. We were fair-minded. We were tolerant. We opened our borders to anybody who wanted to come and study and be influenced by the democracy, the Arabic democracy that we have created. We created wealth and we wanted to share it with others. We thought we can raise their standards and have them see the way we live and better their lives and take it back to their countries. We wanted to share the blessings that we had created in the Middle East. Sadly, it didn't go according to what we thought. See, our multiculturalism and our good attitude blinded us from watching and reading the writing on the wall when the Muslims became the majority and started becoming more radical in their views and started asking for Islamic rights in the government. We always had our problem with the Muslims in Lebanon. But the problem became aggravated after the influx of the Palestinians out of Jordan into Lebanon when King Hussein kicked them out. And Lebanon, be it the multicultural, open-minded, fair-minded Judeo-Christian country, was the only country that took a third wave of Palestinian refugees into the country. They put their heads together with the Muslims and declared holy war on the Christians. By 1975, we stopped traveling. I lived in the south, in a town called Marjayoun, in the south of Lebanon. We used to go to Beirut to visit with my family, spend Christmas in Beirut and Easter. And I would ask my parents, how come we're not going to Beirut this Christmas for Christmas? And my father would tell me, we decided to stay home this year. Well, staying home with two elderly parents wasn't fun for an only child like me. You have to understand, my parents were married for 22 years. They could not have any children. My mother was 55 years old, and my father was 60 when I was born. Watch out, I see a lot of young ones out there. So spending Christmas at home with my family was not that exciting. But the reason we stopped traveling, I found out later, is because the Muslims and the Palestinians would set up fly-by-night checkpoints. And they would stop cars traveling. And they would ask them for their ID. And in Lebanon, your religion is identified on your ID. You are either a Christian, a Muslim, or a Jew. And when they would see that this is a Christian family traveling, they would get everyone out of the car and shoot them in cold blood. So the Christians stopped traveling, especially in the south. This went on until 1975. In 1975, my 911 happened. In 1975, the Muslims, in trying to take over my town, which was the last Christian town left in South Lebanon, and trying to take over the military bases, bombed my home, bringing it down and burying me under the rubble, wounded. I was 10 years old. We lost everything. I ended up in a hospital for 2.5 months. And while in the hospital being treated, I would ask my parents, why did they do this to us? And my father would tell me, because we are infidels. The Muslims want to kill us. So I knew since I was 10 years old that I wanted dead simply because I was born into the Christian faith. We were surrounded to be slaughtered by the Palestinians and the Muslims, and we knew what our fate was going to be because we knew what they had done to other Christians in Lebanon. They would walk into Christian towns and commit massacres. They would walk into a bomb shelter, find a mother and a father hiding with a little baby within a bomb shelter. They would take one leg of the baby, tie it to the mother, and another leg to the father, and pull the parents apart, splitting the child in half. I think the biggest disservice the Western media did to the Western public is not show the beheadings of Daniel Pearl and Nick Berg and the other 35 hostages. I think we as a society need to see the barbarism that is heading our way. Do not be shocked when you have 16, 17 Canadians born and bred in Canada, blessed with the blessings of Canada, want to destroy the infrastructure of Canada. You need to see what's coming your way. We refuse to believe it in Lebanon also. The last lady that worked for me was completely mentally disturbed. I hired her to take care of her and her family. They walked into her bomb shelter, tied her to a chair, tied her son on her lap, held a knife to her hand, and made her behead her own son on her lap. This is what was happening and what we were hearing from the people running into our towns. We were surrounded to be slaughtered. Our back was to Israel and our front was to the Palestinians and the Muslims. And we had to go to Israel and beg for help because we knew of the two evils, because supposedly we heard on television that Israel is the enemy. Israel is the name of the devil. The Jews are barbaric. They are the problems in the Middle East. But we knew of the two people The Jews are not going to slaughter us because we had more shared values with them. And that was democracy, respect for humanity, appreciation for human life. Few people from my town went to Israel and begged for help. And Israel started coming in the middle of the night and bringing ammunition to the Christians to defend themselves, and food for the children, and bomb shelters to the families who needed bomb shelters, even blankets for those who want to warm up. We ended up living in a bomb shelter after I returned home from the hospital. Underground, me and my parents, with no electricity, no water, and very little food. To get some food, we would crawl out of the bomb shelter under the bombs and dig out grass and dandelions and different vegetations to eat. That was the only greenery we ate. I learned how to peel thorn so I could eat the stalk inside of the thorn with my right tender young hands at age 10, 11, and 12, because that was the only greenery I had. To get some water, we would crawl to a nearby spring under snipers' bullets. And before we left, we would say our last goodbyes because we didn't know if we were going to come back alive or dead. I remember at age 13 years old dressing in my burial clothes because we had gotten word. They heard on the radio that tonight we were going to be attacked by the Islamists who want to slaughter us. A friend of ours stopped by and he said, in case we die tonight, I just want to wish you a merciful death, and left. And I remember putting on my Sunday dress, my Easter best, because I wanted to look pretty when I'm dead, knowing no one would bury me. No 13-year-old child of any religion or any background should ever experience what I experienced. The only reason we survived that night is because Israel came into our country and developed a security zone and protected checkpoints around us so the radicals will not be able to get to us. And this is how we survived. The Christians and the Jews in Israel started working together to establish peace between the two countries, to expel the radical elements that had taken control of Lebanon. Syria had come into Lebanon as a peacekeeping force, but Syria was supporting the terrorist organizations in Lebanon, financing them, protecting them, supplying them with weapons, helped and assisted by Iran. In 1982, Israel invaded Lebanon, and the only reason Israel invaded Lebanon was because Syria and Iran were working together to creating a radical element in Lebanon, a base from which to fight Israel. The war in Lebanon was not a war between the Christian Lebanese and the Muslim Lebanese. It was a war between the Christians of Lebanon and the Muslims who came from all around the Arabic world, from Libya, from Egypt, from Syria, from Saudi Arabia, from Bahrain, to fight the Christians under the banner of Islam. And we are facing the same story today in the West. Many people do not realize. They think, well, they hate us because we are in Iraq. They hate us because we are in Afghanistan. I have news for you, my friends. Under the banner of Islam, La ilaha illallah Muhammadun Rasulullah. There is no God greater than Allah, and Muhammad is his prophet. They killed children in Israel, massacred Christians in Lebanon, Copts in Egypt, Assyrians in Syria, Hindus in India, Armenians in Turkey, and expelled over 900,000 Jews out of Arab land. That had nothing to do with the West. That's how Islam treats minorities within Islam. Today we have the same problem here in North America and across the world. We just heard about the fight, the war between Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon. What a lot of people do not realize is Hezbollah is right here in Canada. You have Hezbollah cells right here in Canada. We have Hezbollah all over the place, plotting right now to commit terrorist acts. You were lucky the 17 people were discovered and the plot was foiled before the plot went on. But do not think for a second that another plot is not boiling right now, ready to happen. And this is why it is your duty as civilized, westernized, democratic Canadians to take a stand against evil. Because if you don't do it, no one else would do it for us. And I'm going to touch a little bit about the education happening in mosques throughout North America. Saudi Arabia is financing and protecting and supporting the mosques. Saudi Arabia is providing publications that teach Muslims in non-Muslim countries how to live and deal with non-Muslims. Thank God for private groups